homesteading to prepping to common horse sense, we are College Hill Farm. Welcome back to College Hill Farm. I know I promised you a knife sharpening video, so here it is. I'm sitting out here, going to be sitting out here at the porch listening to Crystal's pond. She made a beautiful little pond. Let's have a look. That's her pond with her goldfish. She done an awesome job on it. It's got a big old frog in it too. Anyway, we're going to do a little knife sharpening video today. There are a lot of guys out there that have specialty equipment for sharpening a knife. They've got belt sanders and all this stuff. This is not about sharpening a knife for the first time. This video is about your everyday carry pocket knife that you buy that looks like this. Now I buy these little cheapo knives I find at the flea market for $1. Okay? For me, I'm just as liable to take this knife, put it on a piece of wood, and take a hammer and beat the crap out of it to cut a piece of wood off as I am to do anything else. You know, take it like this and use it with a hammer to chisel wood out of something, or you just never know, even cut through a piece of tin. So I use my pocket knives and abuse them. So I buy them as cheap as I can get them, and generally about $1 a piece. This one we're going to be doing today, if you look at it, it says stainless steel Pakistan. Alright, it's not $1, it's not one of the fancy knives. I've got bucks and I've got old timers, and they're in there in the cabinet. They were Dad's. I don't invest in knives. I'm not a knife collector. I'm a knife user. As far as I'm concerned, it's a tool, and it's the main tool that you need to be good at your homestead. Now, the number one thing is it's got to be sharp. Now, today we're going to talk about how to sharpen a pocket knife, a standard homesteader pocket knife. There are a lot of guys out there that have their specialty ways of sharpening a knife, and it doesn't have to be that complicated, okay? It just doesn't. Sharpening a knife requires that you have two things. You have the knife, you have a sharpening stone. Now, most knives come sharpened already. Now, unless you're making knives, there's really no reason to have a coarse grit stone. But now, you can have a coarse grit stone if you want to. That's fine. I'm not dogging anybody for doing what they're doing. I'm talking about to the first timer out there who wants to learn how to sharpen a knife. Most knives, when you take them out of the package, they come sharp. Okay? They come as sharp as they need to be. I've never had to shave with a knife. You can sharpen your knife sharp enough to shave with. But I've never had to shave with one, and I don't know anybody who has. Maybe Jeremiah Johnson in that movie. Anyway. So, as far as knives go, a basic homesteader knife needs to be sharp so that it can cut tomatoes. Cut through briars if he needs to. Cut down whatever. There are lots and lots and lots and lots of things that a homesteader needs their knife for. And I use mine for everything. I've broken I don't know how many, but I just pay $1 for them. A good sharp knife is a necessity. I'm going to cut tomatoes tomorrow, and for seeds. I'm going to do seed tomatoes again tomorrow, and for mortgage lifters. But to do that, you got to have a good sharp knife. Well, today my knife is dull as it can be. I've used it for everything. It's not unlike me to cut fence wire with it. So, here's the knife. You can see the blade. That is dull as it can be. You hear the sound? It's just dull. Now, you see that it's ridged here, and you can see that it starts coming in, and then there's a ridge right here. That's designed into the blade, and then when it gets down close to the tip, there's a steeper cutoff. Now, the way this works is you don't need to sharpen all the way back here. You need to sharpen the blade tip. Okay? You need to sharpen the blade tip. You don't have to sharpen all the way back up into here. Now, some guys want to take their knife and get it all smooth all the way back. Me, I don't care. I just want it to be sharp. I want to be able to cut a tomato. Here's a good example. Oh, do any of y'all use these candles? These anti-mosquito candles? I don't think they do crap, but I like the smell of them. Anyway, here's a piece of paper. I use my knife to cut paper. I still mail all my bills. I guess I'm old school. But now, won't do nothing. Okay? You can see I put pressure. It made a mark on the edge. Well, what do you need to sharpen a knife? Well, you don't need nothing fancy. You don't have to go out and buy a knife sharpening machine, a honing machine. You don't have to have honing oil. You don't have to have all that. All you need is a good whetstone. This is a Smith medium Arkansas stone. Well used, you can see. I've used it for everything. Ever so often I wash it to get the embedded metal off of it, and I'll take a scrub brush to it sometimes. But other than that, that's all it is. There's a lot of different ways to sharpen a knife. Let me bring you over and let's talk about that. Okay, here's what you got to have. This is a good medium Arkansas stone, and on the front you can see I've well worn it. You know, it's even got pits in it where I've wore it so much. But see here how it grooves in. Now, a nice leather case is always handy because I use the leather to hone with. And we're going to show that in just a minute. Now, your knife is made in such a way that right here is a groove down, and then when you get to the end, it's a steeper groove. So what you want to do is put your hone knife to that lower groove. Okay? And you want to take your knife. Now, some guys do it different. Some guys do it like this. They take their knife and they hold it at that angle and they do this. Okay? And they go backwards, and then they'll do the same number of strokes on the other side. That's a perfectly fine way to do it. But then there are some guys that do it like this. They push the knife. Okay, and then they'll do the same thing the other way. And they'll push it. Always holding that knife on the angle. And you can do the knife like this, and you can feel the angle when you're on it. Okay? And you want to hold it for the entire length of the knife when you do that angle. And some guys, when they do theirs, they only do it like this. They pull it straight down and never move that blade down the stone. And they do the same thing on both sides. Now me, I'm a smoother. I like to do it from the back side of the knife and work it that way. Now, so far, that knife's getting a little better, but it's still in bad shape. So, it's going to take some time. So I turned it over to the other side of my stone, which happens to be a little rougher. But it's not rougher because it's made rougher, it just happens to be that way. And you can count the number of times you do this. I don't normally count, because when you get close when you get close to right, you can rub your finger along it and you can feel a little burr on one side or the other, but you want to take that burr completely out so that the blade is good and smooth. I stopped the camera so I could show you, so I could hit this some more. I did probably 50 or 60 strokes in each direction while the camera was off, because you didn't need to see all that. Now you can see, if you look close, let me see if I can show you if this will focus. You can see this tip, how it's starting to get that sheen back to it right on the tip. Do you see that? Just as it's starting to get that sheen back to the very tip. Now it's starting to get to where it's close. So what I want to do is I want to take and then strop it, and that means use a piece of leather. Now I've got a leather strop that I can do this with, but I found that this little old pouch that comes with this, it's from Smith Knife Works. Okay, this little pouch has been awesome over the years. Like I said, I've had this for about 15 years, and I have used it to death. And I'm just going to strop that knife, and that will take off any burrs and kind of polish that edge and give it that extra oomph that you just don't get without using the leather. The leather's just one of them things. Okay, now that feels pretty good. Let's see how it'll do. Oh, there we go. Okay, cuts that right off. It don't take forever to get a knife as sharp as you need. Okay, it's not a hard process. About 15 minutes, you can sharpen any knife that's been sharpened before. I don't know about you, but sharpening my knife reminds me of sitting around with Dad. Dad taught me how to sharpen a knife. Me and my brother would sit and sharpen knives together. I would sit on the porch and string beans with Granny and Mom Pa, and I think about those things, and then I think, man, I am so far behind on my homestead, and it kind of gets me to feel like I'm not being as successful as I need to be. I look at the things that my grandfather had on his homestead. He had 2 barns, a big chicken house, a brooder house, a workshop, a smokehouse, a place, heated storage for his canning goods. He had all this stuff. Well, I'll just tell you, when I came along, he had already lived on that same piece of ground for 40 years. Okay, I've been here 6 years. It'll be 6 years in November. I've been here 6 years. So, I'm doing all right. I'm not doing perfect. At 57, I'm doing real good. So, I need to don't start worrying about what everybody else has got on their homestead. Worry about what you got on your homestead and do the best you can to move forward. Always moving forward. Whether you're learning to sharpen a knife for the first time, you're getting those first chickens, that first goose. Ain't nothing like that first goose, especially the first time he chases you. You know, wants to run at you with his head down. There's nothing like that feeling. So, if your homestead isn't moving as fast or as good as you'd like it to, well, step up your game. But know that it's a marathon and not a sprint. It's going to take you years to establish your homestead. Hopefully this fall we'll put in a greenhouse. I think I've got enough money saved up to build the greenhouse. Hopefully we'll get the greenhouse built and a tractor shed. I want to build me a tractor shed this fall too. My little tractor's been out in the weather now for 3 years and I don't like that. So Now, if you like this kind of stuff, this homesteading, do-it-yourself kind of thing, be certain to come on out to the channel and subscribe. We do this homesteading stuff every week, sometimes 1, sometimes 5 videos. Just depends on what's going on in the homestead that week. Now, if you hit the little bell when you come to the channel, it'll notify you when we upload a video. We upload every Sunday. Now, with that being said, it's time for me to get on to the next thing. I may sharpen some of Crystal's kitchen knives.